I'm Susan Johson. I'm the membership secretary for the International Wizard of Oz Club. I'm coming to you this morning to read you another story from Oziana, the original collection of publications, stories, poems, and artwork from Wizard of Oz Club members. This is the only collection published by the Oz Club of such fiction, poems, and drawings. This story is called Polychrome Sky School. It is from the 2020 issue of Oziana, and it is by Paul Dana, and it is illustrated by Sam Milazzo. Paul Dana lives in San Francisco, and he's written several books about the Yucahoos in Oz, and he is the registrar for OzCon International, the Western Convention of Oz fans. Sam Milazzo lives in Australia, and he is also a regular attendee at the OzCon International. Polychrome Sky School. Authors note, this story takes place sometime between the events recounted in Tip-Top of Oz and the Tin Woodman of Oz. Now, pupils, began the teacher, let's start by learning who we all are. Please take your slates and write your names on them. Polychrome reached under her misty desk and pulled out a slate. This slate was a square of dark gray, almost black, fashioned from a thundercloud on the verge of bursting. The pink from her pink pen showed clearly on its surface as Polychrome wrote her name. When she finished, she glanced over at the girl on her right, and now the name Cerulean on her slate. Cerulean caught her eye and smiled. She was a lovely girl, draped entirely in shades of blue. First day, she whispered. Polychrome nodded. I passed my sky subjects a long time ago, she confided. Now I'm back for more grounding. This was true. Decades had gone by since Polychrome had learned the simple magic of iridescence and luminosity, as well as the intermediate disciplines of evaporation and condensation. At the same time, these skills had seemed more than sufficient for a rainbow's daughter who loved dancing above all things and dreamed of nothing beneath the shimmering sweep of the rainbow and the soaring vastness of the sky. After 2 accidental visits to the Earth, however, she decided to tackle weightier subjects. Attention, please, called the teacher. Slates up. All the pupils held up their slates. Pink names gleamed in the misty sunlight. The teacher read them aloud, one by one. Fuchsia, a girl clad in vivid shades of rose, blushed and bowed her head shyly. Pastelle, you'll like her, Cerulean whispered. She's very sweet-tempered, though not overly bright. Next came a green girl called Verdia, followed by a tiny slip of a thing called Droplet. A girl called Opaline wore draperies much like Polychrome's, shot through with all the colors of the rainbow. Next came silver-haired Sheen, who caught the light bewitchingly whenever she moved, and Kamula, whose hair and gown billowed about her. A much wispier girl nearly found herself marked absent. Her name turned out to be Diaphana, and no one had noticed when she came in and sat down. She sometimes puts on airs, whispered Cerulean, but we see right through her. As for me, continued the teacher, smoothing her gray attire, I am Miss Monochrome. And now, let's take up the solemn subject of gravity, which I always teach during the fall semester. If you decide to drop the subject due to the heavy workload, please let me know at once. There is usually a long wait list. The introductory gravity lesson lasted till lunchtime. Polychrome paid close attention, for gravity was a subject in which she had a special interest. Cerulean inquired about this during lunch, while they all enjoyed mist cakes and dewdrops in the refectory. It's because of what happened when I visited the Earth, Polychrome replied. Earth, exclaimed Cerulean, Kamula, and Diaphana excitedly. Why, they said, Are you the girl who got lost down there twice? Word of these extraordinary events had breezed across the entire rainbow. Most of the airy sisterhood had touched solid ground only fleetingly, if ever, and the rainbow made its brief and stormy stops, and on those occasions, there had been no time to explore the exotic world of humans and earth fairies before the rainbow set out on its next journey. Yeah, that was the one. I'm the one, Polychrome admitted. What was it like? Well, some of it wasn't so nice, but the land of Oz was marvelous. I met so many wonderful people there. The ruler is a girl called Oziana, who looks as fresh and young as any of us. Isn't that something? The listeners agreed it was. I thought Earth people must be rather dense, said Diaphana. Some of them are, Polychrome assured her, especially the gnomes, although they do have a talent for underground movement. But that hardly matters because the Oz people were so kind to me. Oh, and their wizard performed such wonderful magic, you can hardly imagine. He learned it from a wise sorceress named Glinda. Can all Earth people do magic? They could not, and this, Polychrome explained, was precisely the problem that now brought her back to school. Twice she had found herself stranded down below, and both times she had fallen in with mortals who possessed only the most limited magic or none at all. When her new friends got into trouble, as they often did, she had little more than their wits to get them out of it, and Polychrome had no more magic than they did. This grieved her, for she knew that some of her more studious sisters possessed skills which would have come in handy. How could such an awkward situation be allowed to continue? So here I am, she concluded, determined to expand my horizons. But surely you'll never visit the earth again, said Cumula. Oh, I will. I'm sure of it, for I had such a good time. I made such lovely friends. But my feet are sure to dance me back there one day. And when that happens, I better be prepared. This was easier said than done. The following semester tested Polly's resolve as she groped through fog banks of homework and practice. Droplet dropped out only after a few weeks. Cerulean got the blues, while Fuchsia complained that she was becoming too well-read. Cumula got a swelled head, which made Bertia jealous. Pastelle almost washed out of the program, and the fact that she passed it all was chalked up to patience rather than brilliance. She and Diaphana made light of the work, however, and Opaline shone at everything. Determined to keep up with these three, Polly enlisted them in a study group and managed very well indeed. Their hard work paid off. The arc of your studies has brought you for Daughters of the Rainbow, Miss Monochrome told them on a graduation day. There have been high points and low points along the way, for I always grade on a curve. And by now, you have learned that you can never come full circle. A vast windy sigh vibrated beneath their feet. The girl's mighty father, while proud of them, had heard Miss Monochrome's speech too often over the centuries. He hadn't much cared for it the first time, and he liked it even less now. Miss Monochrome ignored him. Makes me proud to present you with your dichromas, she said primly. These dichromas, the emblems of matriculation, were small misty scrolls inscribed in vivid blue and red rather than the usual pink. They symbolize the opposing forces of air and earth, sky and soil, which have been brought together through the difficult course of study. Polychrome collected her dichroma and held it with pride. Later, while throngs of sisters congratulated her for her diligence and themselves for forging on, she eagerly looked forward to the day when her airy toes once more touched solid ground. What would her earth friends say about her new power? Was there any challenge she couldn't meet? I can hardly wait to see Oz again, she murmured. Now I'm going to try and show you the illustrations in this story. This is one of the rare times that we have the author's permission to show the illustrations. And again, yes, there is just only that one. And now I would like you to read you a very short excerpt from the same Oziana, the 2020 issue, and it is called A Use for Jack's Pumpkins. To use Jack's own words, it's as easy as pie. You'll need 2 large eggs, 1 16-ounce can of pumpkin puree, 1 14-ounce can of sweetened condensed milk, 1 teaspoon pumpkin pie spice, 1 unbaked pie crust. Directions: preheat the oven to 425 or 220 Celsius. Combine eggs, pumpkin puree, sweetened condensed milk, and pumpkin pie spice in a large bowl and mix until combined. Fit pie crust into a 9-inch pie dish. Pour pumpkin mixture into crust. Place pie on a baking sheet and bake in a preheated oven for 15 minutes. Reduce the heat to 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 175 degrees Celsius and bake into a filling and set. 35 to 40 minutes. Nutrition facts: 309 calories, protein, 7.5 grams, DV, carbohydrates, 41.8 grams, cholesterol, 63 milligrams, sodium, 333.6 milligrams, yield, 8 servings. When melancholy days come round and leaves get brown and red, when corn is shucked and when you add a blanket on your bed, when apples pared and quartered are set in the sun to dry, this is the time to smack your lips and think of pumpkin pie. This pumpkin pie is a tempting dish to almost any fellow. So sweet and tender, luscious, yum. And then, withal, so yellow. You stir up eggs and milk and spice and sugar, oh my eye. And then you add the pumpkin, and that makes pumpkin pie. And this is from the Montreal Daily Herald, October 5th, 1892. I hope that you have enjoyed this story from the 2020 issue of Oziana. We're almost finished with the year. And I hope that you will join us again for another story from Oziana. And goodbye, and have a wonderful Thanksgiving.